because you can't cut down forest if you can't reach it.
My name is Barbara Hahn. I'm a disease ecologist at the Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies. In Brazil, there's a lot of deforestation, and when we log these forests, we create roads, and these roads sort of go into the forest, but there are edges, of course, that come with each of these roads. And there are mosquito species that are quite good at transmitting pathogens to humans that feed on other organisms in the forest and also primates, for example, and persist very well at the edges of these forests where there's just...
bringing to them.
Now, when we last spoke, it was around a year ago when you were launching your first zero plastic waste shampoo bar. How have sales been over the last 12 months?
We've done great in the UK and in Europe, I have to say. Great performance. We've seen a new consumer coming to the brand because of thanks to this great innovation. And we also looked at the reviews and the satisfaction. The reviews are very high, 4.5, 4.6. And more than 80% of people who use the product want to repurchase. So a really strong shift there. Now, it's still less than 5% of the total hair care market. So we have to continue to keep educating and to shift this behavior, which is the big challenge ahead of us.
It hasn't cannibalized your own existing shampoo sales. You regard this more or less as a new category?
It's been an incremental purchase for us, absolutely.
Right. And I mean, more broadly right now, there's an awful lot of talk of inflation in the air. How are you negotiating that?
There's a lot of pressure on prices, but also on availability of raw materials across the world. We are working really, really hard with our partners across the world to secure our raw materials at an affordable price or a good price. It is challenging, and we're an accessible brand, so we're always trying to continue to be very accessible. And this equation is challenging, but we were really acting on it region by region to make sure we continue to be accessible.
Which parts of the world are you finding it harder to pass on cost increases to customers?
Oh, it's very variable. It depends on retailers because before going to the consumer, it goes also to the retailer, and it really depends. I would say on the retailer and the country. It's very variable, and I think for us, it's always about what's in for the consumer and what value equation can we bring to our consumer across the world.
And presumably, as economies reopen, that is good news for you, ultimately, if people start paying more attention to their personal hygiene and personal care.
Yeah, I mean, we're very happy to see the economy coming back. We've seen during COVID some categories booming, like hair color at home or skincare, body care, a lot of self-care tissue masks that are big at Garnier. But for sure, with social life coming back, even more beauty products can be consumed.
All right, Adrien, have to leave it there. Good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian.
Well, still to come here on Ian King Live. We'll be having a look at how the markets are doing this Wednesday morning. Stay with us.
We should protect our heritage. Unfortunately, it will become part of Azerbaijan.
This monastery is under the protection for now, the next 5 years at least, of Russian peacekeepers. I'm Dinah Magny and I'm Sky's Russia correspondent, based here in Moscow. I witnessed the despair of the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh who were digging up the soil of their dead relatives. It's Armenians who've abandoned these villages now. Quite what their strategy is, I'm not sure, but they have made some arrests already today.
They can't kill everyone, they can't shoot everyone, they can't arrest everybody.
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world. I mean, this clearly says, I love Hitler. Are you saying that doesn't say Hitler? Russia insists that its military build-up in the Arctic is purely defensive.
Well, after a positive finish on Wall Street last night, during which the S&P 500 broke a 5-day losing streak, there were gains for stock markets overnight across the Asia-Pacific region. The star performer was the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, which finished nearly 3% higher, while the Nikkei 225 in Tokyo rose by almost 2%. There were also healthy gains in Shanghai, Mumbai and in Sydney. Well, stocks in Europe have also been in largely positive territory since the opening a couple of hours ago. Here's a current picture. All of the main indices in positive territory right now. Not everything is in positive territory in Europe this morning. One of the main talking points includes Philips. Shares of the health technology company are down currently by more than 11% in Amsterdam, following a profits warning. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 earlier this morning hit a new post-pandemic high. It's currently trading nearly 0.75% higher at just over 75,444. That's led by gains for the mining heavyweights. Not too many blue chip fallers to mention, but electro components, their shares are off some 2.5%. I think it's run into a bit of profit taking. That was on the back of some very strong gains yesterday. Put out a trading update yesterday. Outside the FTSE, I mentioned them earlier on, Dunelm, their shares are up by some 5.5% on that trading update, while the other stocks who are higher today after updating the market include Trustpilot. Its shares are up by some 4.5%, and Savills, that's ahead by a similar amount, again also on the back of a trading update. On the foreign exchange markets, it's actually pretty quiet, to be honest, ahead of the US inflation data later today. The pound is currently off by 0.1% against the US dollar and barely moved right now against the euro. As I say, sterling marking time really there ahead of the US inflation data. That comes out at 8:30 Eastern time. That will be 1:30 our time this afternoon. As for the oil price, well, that's this morning hit its highest level since mid-November. In other words, before the spread of the Omicron variant. That's on expectations of demand growth. Barrel of Brent crude right now, $83.76 a barrel. It was above $84 a barrel earlier on this morning. We're joining me now as the head of market analysis at Brewin Dolphin, Janet Mui. Janet, very good morning to you. Obviously, the big event over the last 24 hours was Jay Powell's testimony to US senators. I mean, he didn't really say anything that new, did he? But yet markets seem to have taken a bit of encouragement from it.
Hi, good morning, Ian. Thanks for having me. You're absolutely right. Actually, he didn't say anything new. I think it's a confirmation that the Federal Reserve is on course to raise interest rates and also to scale back its huge balance sheet. I think in a way, there's no new hawkishness from the message, which is a good sign. And also the fact that the Federal Reserve is actually very determined to fight off the current high inflation. So again, I think that's a positive for market participants as well. And also I think there was a bit of deep buying because some of the heavily hit areas such as the technology shares, I think is regaining interest from investors, as a lot of these hawkish Fed message have been priced in already.
Yes, a very good point you raise there. Some of these tech stocks have been badly beaten up over the last couple of weeks or so. Do you think that sort of dip buying still has a bit of a way to run?
Yes, potentially. I think there would still be a lot of volatility in the market because, after all, this is a year of normalization of monetary policy around the world. And also, today, as you mentioned, we will have that US inflation data, and it could change things potentially. Markets are expecting 7.1%. If that goes higher than that, then I think there would be a little bit of wobble. But I do believe that a lot of bad news or hawkishness is being priced by markets.
Absolutely. I mean, and we actually had the Chinese inflation data yesterday, and that came in slightly softer than expected.
Yes, again, I think that is a great news because, as you know, China is the world's largest producers of goods and exporter. And whereas the developed markets like the US, UK, Europe, we are consumers of those goods. So if you start to see Chinese factory gate prices slowing down, it is a good leading indicator that the goods we will be consuming in the future will see prices slowing as well. So I think that's another good news for markets.
Now, Janet, we've had a lot of trading updates in the UK here today for investors to get their teeth into. What's jumped out for you today?
Yes, I think Sainsbury's results stand out. The stock is up this morning, and I think it was encouraging that the grocery demand is still strong. Obviously, the comparison base was very tough versus December 2020 because that was a time when we were locked down, right? So it was a tough comparison base, but I think Sainsbury's did very well again. Obviously, that was supported by the fact that more people were staying at home during Omicron, more people working from home. So the demand for cooking at home or demand for eating at home actually is still strong. And there were also other positive signals as well because their banking business was doing well. The outlook is good, helped by rising interest rate expectation. And they're also paying down debt. And also they are having good signs in reducing costs, which is very important when we have inflation. So supermarkets that can actually pass on costs to their consumers, save costs, manage the supply chain is very well regarded by city analysts.
All right, Janet, it's a very busy morning today, so I'll let you get back to it. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Well, still to come here on Ian King Live, a bleak economic year ahead. That's according to the World Bank. We'll get more after this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Gabby Dave Global. We are a UK-based online e-commerce store, the first of its kind with license to trade in African products. Some of the products are clothing brands and all beauty accessories, hair and beauty brands, natural aphrodisiacs, processed and dried unprocessed food. Our mission at Gabby Dave is to connect African and Caribbean businesses to customers globally. At Gabby Dave, we ensure our sellers get the best deal for their products. We are not just here to help you reach a wider audience. We are also a distribution center to support business growth by fulfilling orders to your customers from our warehouse, making sure customers receive their products on time. We are inviting all Black-owned businesses to trade on our platform because we strongly believe Africans have a unique brand the customer would appreciate globally. So get in touch today and let us make your product and business go far. Here are some of the benefits of using Gabby Dave Global. User-friendly platform, track your shipment, online support, transparent process, multiple SKUs, multiple products, a platform that encourages manufacturers as well as traders. Our marketing and PR interventions amplifies yours. Organized products and categories for easy access and navigation. Access to global community, especially within UK and Europe.
On your first transaction, your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about Sendwave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been
that?
told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. The hole of darkness.
So what did that
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile. If you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Starr Radio.
In your car, at work, at home, on your smartphone. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7. Welcome.
Yes, don't you cry. Everything is gonna be alright. And on that note, I say a massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. And those of you on other planets as well, we want to salute you all and welcome you to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. I remain yours sincerely.
This is the morning show with Archie.
And I'm going to be with you from now until 12 o'clock when I take you to the House of Parliament for what is going to be coming on today. It's quite an interesting day. A Wednesday edition of the morning show, the 12th day of January the year 2021, time now 10:40. Well, let me say good morning to my colleagues, Mr. Frank Davis, Mr. Olaimi Koiki, Kojodi, my able producer, Mr. Francis Gayi, and Felix all the way in Aberdeen. To our presenters on Starr Radio UK and management, I salute each and every one of you. And let me also take this opportunity to say good morning to our listeners in the US. Comfort Havit, I hope you are doing very well. Mr. Makiva, good morning to you. And a special good morning goes to Mr. Buama in Texas as well. Now all the way in Moscow. Let me say massive good morning to Tosino. Tosino will tell me that it's afternoon now in Moscow. But Tosino, we salute you from London. Greetings from London to you with love. And our listeners in Europe, those of you in Asia, those of you in Australia, those of you in other parts of the world, especially those of you on the African continent, namely Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, La Côte d'Ivoire. My Liberian listeners as well. Looking at the statistics, I could find out that I have some lovely listeners in Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, and the West Coast. I salute you all. Let me say good morning to our Ugandan and Kenyan listeners as well, and our South Africans. Mr. Ebenezer Hammond, good morning to you. Chantel, good morning to you all in Cape Town. I hope the Cape Towners are doing good. Okay, if I've not acknowledged you, my apologies for that, but hey, all and sundry, massive good morning to you all. You want to put it the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP's way? Let me plagiarize him. All and Sandra, welcome to the show once again. Playing in background, something from Akasi Brempong says everything's gonna be alright. It doesn't mean that, not necessarily that maybe you are seeing things that way. Maybe things are very, very going pear-shaped and the opposite direction, whilst you think I should go the other direction. But one thing for sure that I can assure you of is once you have life, you have hope. So keep on keeping on, and I tell you that one day we'll get to our destination. What about that? A special good morning goes to Chris Fadeli, who is the CEO of Gabi Dave e-platform. Yes, e-commerce platform. So I hope you are doing very well. She's going to be joining me tomorrow afternoon, exactly at 1:15 on the morning show. She's going to be telling you more about Gabi Day. What about that? Let me say good morning to Na Ode, Miss Donna Takia boy. Girl, I hope you are feeling good. And to my awesome sir, brother HB, massive good morning to you. Auntie Mary, Mrs. Mary Bruce, massive good morning to you all. Our man, Mr. Auntie Mary, good morning, sir. And to the family there as well, we salute you all. Okay, 10:44. This is a Wednesday edition of the morning show, and you know that the program finishes exactly at 12 o'clock. So let's speed on and let's bring you everything that you need to know from now. So we've got about an hour and 16 minutes to do justice to that. Can we? Yes, we can. Well, when it comes to the quote of the day, that is going to be coming next, and then the weather forecast and the travel updates, and then global trotting, and then we open the lines at 11:30, and then 12 o'clock taking you straight to number 10. My apologies, the Houses of Commons for the Prime Minister's question time. Make sure that you follow through, because that's the program outline for Wednesdays and for today especially as well. So the quote for the day says, a great leader must have a deep reservoir of knowledge and a broad perspective. A great leader must have a deep reservoir of knowledge and a broad perspective. Well, so if you're a leader, how knowledgeable are you? I'm not saying that you got to know it all. You don't know it all. Nobody knows it all. Even the wisest man who lived on earth apart from Jesus Christ, King Solomon, is said to have advisors around him as well. Actually, well, if he's got it or he knows it or he's the wisest person, why does he need advisors? Yet he still had advisors around him. So it is a very, very good quote. So use it. It will help you a great deal. Starr Radio UK, the Wednesday edition of the morning show. I'm moving on straight to the weather front. Let me tell you what is happening here in the weather front for London and the southeast of England. Now this afternoon it will be dry and fine with plenty of winter sunshine and very little cloud cover. Gentle winds, it will feel chilly despite the sunshine. But tonight it will be dry with clear skies. A few mist and fog patches will form in places under calm conditions overnight. Another chilly night with a local frost developing. Top temperature is going to be 7 degrees, the lowest is going to be 2 degrees, and then UV level is going to be low, pollution is going to be medium or moderate, and the sun set is going to be at 16, and sunrise for tomorrow morning it's going to be at 0802 hours. Little darling, don't you cry. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast for you as well. No, God is by your for London and the southeast of England. From side to side, through the fire. Okay. Let's get ourselves ready and let's go to the travels. Don't you worry, everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna make sure I let you enjoy that song in full. But for now, let's take a quick break, and once we come back, we continue with the show. Stay tuned, don't you go away. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Check it out. Keep your eyes on the road.
This is Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads. So keep it navigated. I promise I'll on the Starr Radio UK travel update that comes to you every weekday from 10:40. It's now 10:47. How is your travels like wherever you are on the globe, or even if in space? Yeah, we reach out to everywhere. We are a global radio station, and therefore, please share with us. And I'll tell you that our worldwide listeners will also benefit from it because we have people all over.
Check it out.
Okay, so on the underground this morning, Hammersmith and City lines have got minor delays due to train cancellations there as well. Waterloo and City lines planned closure, so and that aside, all the others have got good service. But therefore, if you're traveling along those routes, please check before you leave. Now, on London Overground until Friday, the 14th of January, a reduced service is operating every 30 minutes between Sarriquays and New Cross. And also between Richmond and Wilson Junction. So please check before you leave if you're embarking on any journey on those routes. That aside, TFL Rail DLR London Tramlink are all in good service. Now let's move on straight to the river bus. Apart from the Woolwich Ferry that is suspended, all the others have got good service. Now the most troubling means of transport this time has been the National Rail, and somebody who said that is not new at all. Because on the National Rail this morning, I've got a lengthy list for you. Avanti West Coast has got special service, Cross Country special service, Gatwick Express special service, Northern Rail special service, ScotRail, Southeastern, Southern special services. Now Thames Link, Transport for Wales special service there as well. But keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads. I will keep you navigated. I promise. Our bond. Now moving on to the final segment of the travel update. And you know what? If you've been listening to us, you know what it is. The major roads in London. Well, this is what is happening on the major roads in London. A13 has got closures. A4 closures. Central London Red routes closures there as well. And A20 has got serious delays. But let me tell you about what is happening on the A20. That is Camberwell Church Street, both directions at the junction of Vicarage Grove. Temporary signals are in operation for Thames Water Works, and this has brought about a slow traffic moving on approach to the works area. So please, if you want to avoid it, avoid that. But if you're stuck in there, well, that's what is happening. It's going to take a few days for it to be sorted out. But on that note, let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today, but you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the road.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio.
Welcome back to the program. It's now 7 minutes to the top of the hour and the time for Global Trotting. And as I will say, get yourself a hot or cold drink, whichever is appropriate. And let's go on a journey. Well, at times it gets bumpy, and therefore, if you are sitting, sit very comfortably. Or if you are standing, hold on to something. You are sure of one thing, though: arriving at your destination in peace, not pieces. All right, then. So let's crack on.
Lay them all down and leave them there. Where are my regular lovers? Come on.
Well, in the UK, it's all unfolding. Well, yesterday we did talk about that. The Prime Minister under pressure. I think I need to play that song for him. Under pressure. Okay, pressure grows on Johnson over lockdown gatherings. You think that he's going to come around to maybe apologize and then we call it quits? Everybody go your way. You know, they were brainstorming at the time. They had to plan. They had to actually put their heads together to move the country or to lead the country through the tough time or the toughest time in the life of the country. Let me put it that way. And in so doing, they needed to chill out a bit. I know some people want to bite my head now or my now as I'm saying that, but they needed to chill out, calm down, and maybe refocus or brainstorm there. So they had a nice outing. While it was sunny, and they told you that you can meet only one person in the park, you know, and if there's somebody's not in your bubble, you cannot meet them. So people were charged for that and all sorts. What do you think is going to happen? People are asking the question: how many parties were there? What rules would the party have broken? But I don't know to the Prime Minister say, sort it out or step aside. Do you think that he's going to be able to sort it out? Well. Conservative MPs vent anger over Bring Your Booze party at number 10 during the first lockdown. And then, MPs are demanding answers from the Prime Minister over the party claim. Prime Minister will face MPs amid mounting pressure to say if he attended a Downing Street event held in lockdown. But information coming through says that he attended the event. So why is all that going on? Well, look at the furlough scheme. Look at the bounce back loans. Look at everything that they did to make sure that the country keep ticking on. Well, if you were home and then you didn't get any money, so you would have been struggling. But look, they thought outside the box of what conservatives would normally do. So maybe we give them a bit of credit for that. Slap on the hand, the back of their hands or their wrist, and then let's move on with it. What do you think? Well, it's All Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, but you have
darling, don't you cry.
Various people saying number 10 party brings back pain for bereaved mother. And a lot of people, yesterday in the Houses of Parliament, some MPs were even shedding tears or were tearful. While UK puts brakes on all lanes, smart motorways, more safety data is needed before other hard shoulders are made into traffic lanes, the government has said. I remember one of these times, one time we traveled, sometime last year, I think sometime in October or thereabout, and then during the course, there was so much traffic, and then we had to stop them when I'm like, oh gosh, the way we stopped, I was like, somebody could crash it. But, well, so you look at it, if the smart motorways are rolled out, then the impact of it, people who have lost their lives because of that, because something has happened on their cars, they had to stop there, they didn't have a choice, and then another car smashes them and then kills them. So it's been put on hold. Now, British gas owners won high bills for 2 years. Jesus! The boss of Centrica says there is no reason to expect gas prices to come down anytime soon. So, you know, when it comes to these stories, what I look at is those environmentalists, those who, listen, we all want the environment to be good. We all want the, what do we call it? We all want to be, we want zero emissions and all that sort. Yeah. But you know how much it costs to do that? Jesus, you don't have a clue. But if they can say that they will support us all, then why not?
From side to side, through the fire, he will be there. Through the storm, God will be there. Through the
all coming away from Star Radio UK.
Take your burden to the Lord in prayer. Lay them all down and leave them there. Where am I?
Okay, let's move on to other parts of the world. Look at the stories making the rounds there as well. Well, in Australia, Djokovic has admitted COVID breaches amid visa row. The tennis star addresses ongoing misinformation as Australia decides on his deportation. Knowing that he lied with his itinerary coming into Australia. And the fact that when he tested positive and he was supposed to isolate, he didn't isolate and was ramping or going round. Do you think his visa should be revoked? Because see the sacrifices that the Aussies have put in place. And you look at the story here. Look at the backlash that is going on there with this party. Well, so maybe I will see what happens. Now Biden pushes overhaul of U.S. election laws in a fiery speech in Georgia. The president calls on Congress to back his sweeping reform. And then in North Korea claims third hypersonic missile test. This is reportedly the first time since March 2020 that Mr. Kim has been known to attend a missile launch. Well, World Organization are saying that half of Europe will catch Omicron. While Dr. Hans Kluge says a west to east tidal wave of the coronavirus variant is sweeping across the region. Well, it seems like the UK is getting out of it, or we've peaked, and therefore now maybe it's going to be declining. But well, it's all caution. And Quebec to impose health tax on unvaccinated. My goodness, the unvaccinated represent 15% of the population, but over half of all hospital admissions. Jesus. A Saudi courts orders first naming of sexual harasser. Wow! The kingdom amended an anti-harassment law last year to allow for the public shaming of offenders. Well, that is sort of, let me put it this way, a man's world when it comes to those parts of the world. But if they're coming out with something like that, I bet now some men will be quaking in their boots. And it's all coming away from Star Radio UK.
Take your burden to the Lord in prayer. Lay them all down and leave them there. Where are my regulars? Come on.
Okay, let's move on to some other countries. Look at what is happening there. Chile starts fourth COVID jab dose as cases rise. And 10 die after Brazilian cliff collapsed onto boats. Now another 32 were injured when the cliff fell onto boats in a lake in the southeast of the country. Whoa. Yes, it's all gonna be alright. Some way, somehow it does. 2 minutes past the top of the hour at a time. Let's move on straight to Africa. Let me tell you what's happening there, and then we can come back to have a look at what is happening in Nigeria in detail. A prominent senator has been gunned down in Cameroon. Senator Henry Kemende's party says he was shot in the chest. I'm going to bring you more on that story. And there's a hunt for an island nation's missing $50 million. 6 of Seychelles' most prominent citizens face charges amid a government crackdown on corruption. Everybody seems to be cracking down on corruption. I remember back in the day in Nigeria, in Ghana, when they were cracking down on corruption. We cracked down and corruption, I think, went hiding. And now corruption is back, big time. But what do you think? What do you think? Is it another? Someone would say one of those things. Well, in the AFCON, Kelechi Iheanacho is on target as Nigeria beats 7-time champions Egypt in their first African Cup of Nations Group D opener. So what is your take? Do you think that Nigeria is going to win? Yesterday or the day before, we had one of Nigeria's top footballers, Okorocha. Is it Okorocha? Yeah, one of them saying that, well, he thinks that Ghana can win. Ghana being the underdog can win. The Black Stars can win the tournament, the African Cup of Nations. What do you think there? And in Burkina Faso, soldiers have been held over alleged coup plot. Those are some of the stories making the rounds there. So coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
It's gonna be alright. Hold on.
Well, in Nigeria, the federal government has moved to reduce importation of livestock products. Is it once again something to protect the local industry? And do they have enough to actually go around? Or is it that they do that and then they spike the prices on the local because of scarcity, makes automatically prices go up, and then the local it makes at the end the consumer have to pay more for whatever they are using. But someone will tell you that, well, in this world that we live now, there is no going back, going forward only. And ex or your governor, Alao Akala, is also there. Nigeria, terrorist kill 3, abduct 13 in Katsina. Is the president's old backyard, you know. Well, it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And the EFCC arraigns Mumfa for alleged money laundering. Who is Mumfa? We'll be bringing you more on that. You know, when it comes to our security agencies back in on the African continent, wow, I can tell you that the way they spoke, I mean, you were feeling proper ninjas, you know. Well, the NIC in Ghana has said that there's going to be job losses facing the financial sector once again. I'm going to bring you more on that. And what do you think is going to happen this time round? Well, concerned doctors petitioned Akufo-Addo to halt vaccine rollout. Why are they saying so? We need a vaccine to keep the people, safe. And therefore, if they are saying that, no, then we have to find out. The doctors say the risk associated with these vaccines per data studied as so far outweighs the potential benefits. Really? Well, we're looking into it. It's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. 7 minutes past the top of the hour. I'll let you enjoy the rest of this tune, and then I'll come back, and then we will go to Nigeria to have a look at what is happening in Nigeria. While I have a sip of some water. Stay tuned.
Let me talk to you. Sika semno, abawono, koto semno. Now if you won't come on, you never try yesu. Now when you semno, catch it right or no.
happy birthday to Reverend Dr. Francis Okonunu. I popularly call him my bishop. Bishop Nunu, good morning to you and a happy birthday. May God add more years to your years and more grace and everything that you need in there. And to every one of you celebrating your birthday today, I might not know it, but wherever you are, happy birthday to you. Last Sunday was my granddaughter's birthday. You know, you think I'm a chicken? Nah. My granddaughter Donna Hammond. What's her birthday? She was 2. Oh my goodness! I remember talking to her. She said, "Granddad." I said, "Hey." So I said, massive good morning to you, to Pat Holali Hammond and Reverend Emmanuel Roxanne Hammond as well. Joe, good morning to you all back in Ghana. Okay. 10 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's take a quick break and then we have a look at some of the stories that is making the rounds this time round from Nigeria. Stay tuned.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes.
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. The whole of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on the CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Welcome to Gabby Dave Global. We are a UK-based online e-commerce store, the first of its kind with license to trade in African products. Some of the products are clothing brands and all beauty accessories, hair and beauty brands, natural aphrodisiacs, processed and dried unprocessed food. Our mission at Gabby Dave is to connect African and Caribbean businesses to customers globally. At Gabby Dave, we ensure our sellers get the best deal for their products. We are not just here to help you reach a wider audience. We are also a distribution center to support business growth by fulfilling orders to your customers from our warehouse, making sure customers receive their products on time. We are inviting all Black-owned businesses to trade on our platform because we strongly believe Africans have a unique brand the customer would appreciate globally. So get in touch today and let us make your product and business go far. Here are some of the benefits of using Gabby Dave Global. User-friendly platform, track your shipment, online support, transparent process, multiple SKUs, multiple products, a platform that encourages manufacturers as well as traders. Our marketing and PR interventions amplifies yours. Organized products and categories for easy access and navigation. Access to global community, especially within UK and Europe.
Welcome back to the program. It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 11 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's quickly go to Nigeria. Let me tell you what is happening in Nigeria with updates from Nigeria. I tell you, Solaimi Koike is back in town, running through a few things, and he'll be getting back on the scene. And on Wednesdays, we'll be bringing you Niger voices and a lot more from there. So please, just bear with us whilst he gets himself all sorted out. Yes, a new year, a new you, and a new him as well. What about that? Yes, and let's come together. All right then. So, breaking story coming through in Nigeria. Mofa, EFCC arraigns Momfa for alleged money laundering. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has taken suspected fraudster Ismaila Mustafa aka Momfa to court. He was arraigned on Wednesday before Justice Mojisola Dada of the Special Offences Court in Ikeja, Lagos. The acclaimed Bureau de Change Dela was arrested on Monday for alleged money laundering. The EFCC accuses him of obtaining money through unlawful activities and retention of alleged proceedings of crime. Now, Momfa and his company, Ismalop Global Investment Limited, are facing trial. The amended 22 charges border on cyber fraud and others to the tune of 32.9 billion naira. He was first apprehended on October 18, 2019 at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport while boarding an Emirate flight to Dubai. The popular socialite is alleged to have received illicit funds on behalf of Yahoo boys and got varying commissions. Well, so he's going to be brought to justice. What do you think about that? It's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Updates from Nigeria. Now, terrorists kill 3, abducts 13 in Katsina. Well, we don't say it now. We don't call them bandits. It's a terrorist. Okay, so 3 persons were reported to have been killed, 13 abducted, while 5 sustained gun injuries when terrorists known locally as bandits attacked an illegal gold processing site located at Bakin Korama of the Magama village in Jibiya local government area at Katsina State, now northwest Nigeria recently. Now, reports said that a gold dealer identified as Sani Muhammad noted that out of the 3 persons killed by the bandits, 2 are from Jibiya, while the identity of the third could not be identified as no means of identification was found on him. However, he said those killed have been buried according to Islamic rites, while the people wounded are currently receiving treatment at the Jibiya General Hospital. Bandits have terrorized Nigeria's rural northwest, now killing, kidnapping, forcing people from their homes and taunting the authorities with their brazenness. Now, in the last few months, the terrorists have downed an Air Force jet, attacked the military officer training school, struck a prestige commuter rail service running between the capital Abuja and the city of Kaduna, and kidnapped students for ransom from schools and colleges so many times. But well, what is government doing? The UN saying that, well, they need to man up and sort that issue out to make sure that even they bring those terrorists who went to, who killed more than 200 people in one of the states as well. Okay, now let's move on to the final story from Nigeria, because it is Wednesday edition of the morning show, so we have to just compress everything and make sure we do justice to all the stories that is making their rounds. The federal government is determined to reduce the importation of dairy products, scale up its local production as well as marketing in the country. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Ernest Omakehi, made the disclosure on Tuesday at the opening of the National Dairy Policy Validation Workshop in Abuja. The workshop was organized by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. It aimed to harvest the inputs of relevant stakeholders for the purpose of enriching the national dairy policy for Nigeria. Omakehi described the national dairy policy as apt and articulate, which is in accordance with the vision of the federal government for the dairy industry. This meeting cannot come at a better time than now, because a national policy for dairy and dairy products in Nigeria is long overdue. There has been a continuous drive towards meeting national sufficiency in dairy production to reduce the huge amount spent on importation of dairy products in order to bridge the huge gap between supply and demand. It says that the successive administration had made effort to close the gap through programs such as Dairy Development Program, National Livestock Breed Improvement Program, among others, thus creating opportunity for private sector participation. The draft policy will support the implementation of the National Agriculture Technology and Innovation Plan, the NATIP, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. It will give defined direction for the country's dairy industry, where all players at whatever scale will be expected to abide by rules of operation in terms of production, processing, and marketing of dairy products in Nigeria. And the coach said, I am glad that we are gradually approaching the stage of finalizing the draft document by this validation workshop. That brings us to the end of the news that is making the rounds in Nigeria, with updates from Nigeria. With the time now, 19 minutes past the top of the hour. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's take a quick break. We come back and then we look at some of the stories making the rounds here in the UK and other parts of the world.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Star Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Star Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Star Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Star Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Orta, you say fire.
Okay, so there's a fire on the mountain. I'm here, Star Radio UK. There is fire on the mountain. Where are we talking about? Well, when it comes to number 10 Downing Street and in the House of Parliament today, there's going to be fire. Well, the Prime Minister, MPs, Tory MPs are demanding answers from Boris Johnson. Yesterday he was saying he didn't come to Parliament, but he was seen in his car when he went for trotting. I think on his way back, it was in the car. Now, do you think that is going to bring about Boris and the Partygate, bringing Boris and Conservative and opposition MPs are demanding answers from Boris Johnson over whether he attended the drinks event in a drinks event in the number 10 garden during lockdown. Labour's deputy leader Angela Rayner said that if he was there and he lied about it, his position is untenable. Now, do you think so? Well, it goes on further to say that, and Tory MPs have been expressing their anger and concerns over the reports. Now, Mr. Johnson is said to appear at Prime Minister's question time today. So in the next 35 minutes, it should appear in the Houses of Parliament. But his first public appearance since details of the May 2020 event emerged, the Prime Minister has so far declined to say whether he attended the gathering, but witnesses have said that both he and his wife were among 30 people at the drinks. Now, so it wasn't 100, and in the garden, it's a massive garden, isn't it? And then people were... okay, I rest my case. But on Monday, ITV published a leaked email from Mr. Johnson's principal private secretary. Interesting. Okay, his principal private secretary, Mr. Johnson, the ITV published, from the Martin Reynolds, inviting staff to socially distant drinks in number 10 garden. Okay, so socially, they're going to use that as true. The first word there is what socially, or the key word is socially distanced drink. Okay, in number 10, on the 20th of May 2020, when lockdown rules in England banned large outdoor gatherings, the invitation encouraged people to bring your own booze and make the most of the lovely weather. Mr. Johnson has said it is a matter for Sue Gray, the senior civil servant investigating a series of reported parties in Downing Street and in Whitehall in 2020 to determine what happened. The Prime Minister's official spokesman had also refused to confirm whether Mr. Johnson attended the May 2020 Downing Street gathering. He added that the Prime Minister retained full confidence in Mr. Reynolds. Of course, he will. But the question is, do you think he should, just own up to it and apologize? I mean, to err is human, to forgive, divine. All right. Now, Conservative MPs, my apologies, backbenchers Nigel Mills has said that an inquiry was not needed to establish whether the Prime Minister was there. He knows whether he was there or not. Just come out and say what happened, he said. Mr. Mills said it will be utterly untenable for any senior figure who attended the gathering to be responsible for setting COVID-19 policy. Now, if the Prime Minister knowingly attended a party, I can't see how he can survive, he said. Interesting. What do you think? Yesterday, well, my colleagues, Mr. Frank Davis and Kojodi, were saying that they don't think that can affect his fortunes because he's been able to ride it on the storm. Manage his way through it, and everything seems to be all right for him. So the more you bring it on, the higher he rises. So bring it on, and Boris will rise again. What do you think about that? Well, is it gone, or is it something just to shake him up a bit, and then we'll go on from there? Well, it is Starr Radio UK. Now, when it comes to the motorways, smart motorways, those of you who travel on the motorways, you've seen how the smart motorway works. New all-lane running smart motorways have been paused while their safety is assessed. The government has said now using the hard shoulder as a permanent live traffic lane increases capacity, but critics say it has contributed to road deaths. Now, 5 years of safety and economic data for the schemes will now be collected from the motorway built before 2020. However, hard shoulders will not be reinstated on current stretches of all-lane running motorways. The government's move comes after MP said in November there was not enough safety and economic data to justify this type of route. In the event that a car breaks down on all-lane running smart motorways, drivers are meant to aim for emergency refuge areas. But critics say the schemes can leave cars stranded in fast-moving traffic. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, the car is stranded and another truck just or a car come to rush into you, and that will be the end of the story. But well, someone will say good news, but the ones that have already been done, they say that they're not going to revert it. So what is it? Well, Star Radio UK. Now, British gas owners have warned of high bills for 2 years. So a lot of us were thinking that it was going to be for maybe a couple of months or maybe sometime this year. And by the time we get to autumn, everything would have been okay. No. British gas is saying, no, it looks like we're going to go for the next 24 months. Now, soaring energy prices, which threatens the living standards of millions, could last up to 2 years, the boss of the UK's biggest energy supplier has said. Now, Chris Archie, chief executive of British gas owner Centrica, said there was no reason to expect gas prices will come down anytime soon. Now, he said hopes that the bills rising by more than 50% to about 2,000 a year will be short-lived, may be misplaced. Now, rising energy bills have raised concerns over the cost of living. The market suggests the high gas prices will be here for the next 18 months to 2 years, Mr. Oshie said. Now, many countries see gas as an intermediate solution while they wean themselves off more carbon-intensive energy sources such as oil and coal, creating an international dash for gas as the world economy wakes up after its COVID-related slumber. As we move towards net zero, gas is a big transition fuel, Mr. Oshie has said. Well, and I'm saying that with this thing, why don't we roll it up? What? Easy. Rather than rushing into it. And look at what is going to be happening. Well, maybe we'll get people going out there to go and demonstrate them more. Let us stop using even gas. Let's stop, all these, fossil fuel thing that we're using. And let's just get maybe solar. And let's see how much it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Well, it is all coming your way from Star Radio UK. 29 minutes to the top of the hour. Let me announce the lines open. You want to add your voice to the discussions this morning for free, and share it with us. It is 0208133257 or 580208133257. or 58. And then if you are in US or Canada or the Caribbean area, it's 001718 3032737 001718 3032737. To text or WhatsApp us 07539661744 07539661744. Our Twitter handle is Starr Radio UK and email address is info@Starr Radio UK and a big.com there. It is Starr Radio UK. Now, let's move on to one final story from the UK front before we move to other parts of the world. Now, do you remember the murder that took place in the French Alps? Well, some years back, the French police have arrested suspect over killing of British family. French police have arrested a suspect over the unsolved 2012 murder of a British family and a French citizen in the Alps. Now, few details were given, but police said a man was in custody in order to do verification regarding his schedule. Now, Saad Al-Hilis, his wife, Iqbal, Mrs. Hilis' mother, Suhali Alaf, and a cyclist, Sylvain Molia, were found shot dead on a road near Lake Annecy. Now, the Al-Hilis' two young daughters survived the attack. Zina, then aged 4, was discovered hiding under her mother's body inside the family's car, and Zainab, 7 at the time, was found with serious head injuries after being shot and beaten. They have since been given new identities, and in 2020 were interviewed again to try to make progress on the case. Now, French investigators have explored several theories, such as family feud or Mr. Al-Hil's work as a satellite engineer as reasons for the attack, but the case remains a mystery. A number of people have been arrested in connection with the death, but no charges have been brought. Now, investigations have said that Molia had no link to the British family, was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay. It's All Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's move on to other parts of the world. Let's see what is happening there. Well, Joe Biden is pushing for overhaul of the U.S. election laws in fiery speech that he gave. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has called for a historic change to Senate rules as he seeks to overhaul the country's election laws. In an impassioned speech, he said he supported changes that will allow his voting reforms to be passed without the support of opposition Republicans. Misgivings from two senators in his party are hampering his plans, and no Republican have backed them. Currently, a majority of 60% is needed to pass most legislation in the Senate, and with the upper chamber of Congress split 50-50 between the two parties, Mr. Biden's sweeping election bills are almost certain not to pass unless there is a change to that rule. Such a change is unlikely, analysts say, as it will require the support of every Democrat in the Senate as well as the tie-breaking vote of the Vice President. Now, the bill, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, passed the lower chamber, the House of Representatives, last year. The former would introduce standardized nationwide voting rules as opposed to the current patchwork of state-by-state rules. The John Lewis Act, meanwhile, will require certain states to obtain government permission for any change to election regulation. To protect our democracy, in the quote he said, I support changing the Senate rules whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking action on voting rights, the president said in a speech in Georgia yesterday. It is all coming your way from Starr Radio, okay? Your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, when it comes to the vaccine, well, Quebec is to impose health tax on unvaccinated Canadians. So if you are going to Canada and you're not vaccinated, well, the Canadian province of Quebec will charge a health tax to residents who are not vaccinated against COVID-19. Now, Quebec, which has seen the highest number of COVID-related deaths in Canada, is currently struggling with a surge in cases. Now, on Tuesday, the Premier announced that it will be the first in the nation to financially penalize the unvaccinated. Only about 12.8% of Quebec residents are not vaccinated, but they make up nearly half of all hospital cases. According to federal data, just over 85% of Quebec residents had received at least one vaccine dose by the 1st of January. Now, Premier Francois Legault has said during a news conference that people who have not received their first dose of vaccine will have to pay a contribution. The fee has not yet been decided, but will be significant, he said. I think right now it's a question of fairness for the 90% of the population who made some sacrifices. Mr. Legault said, I think we owe them the kind of measure. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 23 minutes to the top of the hour. That means in 23 minutes time, I'm going to be taking you to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time, where it's all going to be unfolding like no man's business. Well, Starr Radio UK. Yes, let's move on. Yes, okay. Listeners, let's move on to some of the stories making the rounds in other parts of the world. And the Saudis have shocked us with some lovely the women, those who are feminists or those who support women's rights will say this is one good one there. Now the story says that, well, the court in Saudi Arabia has for the first time ordered that a man convicted of sexual harassment be named and shamed in public. Local media reports have said Yasser Al-Arawi was found guilty by the criminal court in Medina of harassing a woman using obscene remarks. He was sentenced to 8 months in prison and fined up to the tune of $1,130 or £980. The anti-harassment law was amended a year ago to allow for offenders' names and sentences to be published in local newspapers at their own expense. Judges were left to decide whether the gravity of the crime and its impact on society warranted such a step. The amendment was welcomed by many in the conservative Gulf Kingdom at the time, with one commentator saying it was long overdue. And I said that part of the world is a man's world, and that seems to be what goes on in there. But what do you think about all that? It is all Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. 20 minutes to the top of the hour at a time, the morning show, the program. I'll be taking you to the House of Parliament, as I said earlier on, where it's all going to be unraveling this afternoon. Now, moving on straight to Australia. Tennis star Novak Djokovic had admitted there were mistakes on his immigration forms and to meeting a journalist despite testing positive for COVID as Australia mulls deporting him. Now, Djokovic made the admission in an Instagram post to clarify ongoing misinformation about his movement. The men's tennis number one is hoping to play in the Australian Open next week, but his participation has been overshadowed by a row over his visa. Djokovic, who is unvaccinated, had his visa revoked on the 6th of January, shortly after arriving in Australia amid questions over the vaccine exemption that would have permitted him to enter. On Monday, however, a judge dramatically overturned the decision and ordered the release of the player from detention. But the government has not ruled out further action, and the possibility remains that the country's immigration minister could cancel his visa for a second time just before the tournament begins. What do you think? Should he be, well, he's come out to say, well, this is what I did. Well, information there wasn't right. But again, that one too, he blames it on his agents, that his agents didn't see to, put the right information on his immigration forms there. So, what do you think should happen to him? As it's happening here in the UK, the backlash pertaining to the Partygate issue, well, what do you think? It's all coming your way from Star Radio UK. Now, still in the world front, North Korea says Kim Jong-un oversaw the third hypersonic missile test. North Korea says it has conducted another hypersonic missile test under the watch of its leader Kim Jong-un. Now, state media said the missile fired on Tuesday has successfully made a turn before hitting its target in the sea some 1,000 kilometers or 621 miles away. It marks North Korea's third reported test of hypersonic missile, which can avoid detection for longer than ballistic missiles. My goodness. Now, Mr. Kim's presence could indicate the technology has improved, says analysts. The latest up in testing would appear to support Mr. Kim's stated New Year's goals, where he vowed to bolster North Korea's defense capabilities. Well, it is all coming your way from Star Radio UK. Some story from North Korea for you. All right then. Now let's move on to the African continent as well, and let me bring you what is happening on that front. A sad story that has happened in Cameroon, and that says, my apologies, just bear with me whilst I load that, I get that story loaded, bear with me. Okay, whoa, how the story eluded me. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Barrister Kemende. Okay. Yeah, I got a story now. A prominent senator has been gunned down in Cameroon. A prominent opposition lawmaker and barrister in Cameroon from the opposition Social Democratic Front, the SDF, has been gunned down in Bamenda City in the northwest. Now, gunmen forced Senator Henry Kamenda to get out of his car and then shot him in the chest. Party Communications Secretary Dennis Nkelemo have said the motive for the killing is unclear. Mr. Nkelemo added, Bamenda is the main city, English-speaking city in Cameroon. and at the center of the political crisis that has led to armed conflict between separatists and the military. According to the International Crisis Group, the fighting has killed more than 6,000 people and displaced about 1 million since 2017. The separatists are opposed to what they see as domination by French-speaking Cameroonians. Now, Cameroon is currently hosting the African Cup of Nations, with the government assuring teams and spectators that they will be safe. Now, Mr. Commander's killing has been condemned by rights group on Twitter. Now, that's a sad and a very, killing somebody, you can't say it's a bad timing, but it's been a sad situation there. Now, several people have been killed in the blast near Somali airport. A bomb has exploded in the Somali capital, Mogadishu, with reports that several people were killed. The blast took place on a road by the entrance to a camp for the Somali Air Force, which is close to the international airport. Although it's not yet clear who was behind the attack, the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab frequently carries out suicide bombings. Now, Somalia is also in the middle of a political crisis due to power struggle between the president and prime minister ahead of elections. This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, Zimbabwe interestingly has ditched colonial era prison uniforms. Zimbabwe has introduced a new prison uniforms in order to get colonial historical injustices out of our minds. But you still be in prison. You still be in the same prison that they built at the time. Now, Justice Minister Ziyambi has said male inmates will move from wearing white shirts and trousers to orange ones. Now, female prisoners will change their green dresses for pink ones. Okay, the minister said another benefit of the change was that the bright new colors will not get dirty as easily. Really? Wow. Okay. A local news outlet tweeted a photo of some prisoners modeling the new outfit. Okay, yeah, look at us, man, in our new outfit, but we're still locked in there. Well, it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Yes. Okay. Listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And okay, now let's move on to some of the other stories making the rounds in Ghana as well. Now, job losses to hit financial sector again as NIC plans to collapse insurance firms. So they move from the banks now to insurance firms. The National Insurance Commission is on the verge of withdrawing the licenses of some insurance companies after they were unable to recapitalize to 50 million Ghana cedis by the end of its recapitalization deadline. By not meeting the new capital requirement, the insurance sector regulator said the companies had also failed to move their capital adequacy ratio, the MCR, to 150% as required by an earlier directive. It has therefore given the affected companies up to the 6th of February to cough up the funds or close shop and hand over their operation. The warning that was communicated to the affected companies on the 6th of January now risks triggering the collapse of companies, mass layoffs, loss of investments, and the disruptions in the financial sector that is recovering from the recent clean-up exercise. An avenue for patient capital, the insurance sector employs thousands of people as permanent employees or contract staff or agents to sell insurance products. Now, experts say the order to cease operation, which was signed by the Commissioner of Insurance, Dr. Justice Ofori, and the uncompromising position of the NIC in the midst of the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on business, could cause panic among the insuring public. send hundreds back home and worsen the hardship situation in the country. In the notice sent to the affected companies, a copy of which has been intercepted, the industry regulator said the companies that were unable to raise the capital had breached Section 59 of the Insurance Act 2021 Act 1061. Now, in pursuant to Section 178 of the Insurance Act, the Commission by this letter issues a 1-month notice of enforcement to the name without effective January 12 for the purposes of protecting your policy makers, the entire insurance industry, and the general public. You will be placed under enforcement with effect from February 10, the notice that was issued to the companies said. Our sources say more than 5 companies are involved, raising the stakes on the impact to joblessness and disruptions to the insurance sector and the financial sector in general. The notice further warned affected companies not to enter into new contracts for any class of business, renew and any existing contracts, vary contracts, or engage in any marketing activities. Also ordered that the firms to stop their staff and agents from selling their products. You are, however, required to service existing policies until expiry, the notice said, adding that payments must only be for claims, salaries, statutory requirements, and other essential management expenses, but with prior approval from the National Insurance Commission. Are we going to see another job loss collapse in the financial sector once again? Is that what we're going to be seeing? Well, this is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. All right, now let's move on to some other stories making their rounds, and this is quite a difficult and a challenging one, because back here everybody's being encouraged to go get their vaccines. However, in Ghana, some 11 doctors have written to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to issue a directive for the nationwide vaccine rollout in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic to be paused. The doctors say the risks associated with these vaccines, per the data studied so far, outweigh the potential benefits, if any. In their petition dated Monday, January 10, 2022, the doctors, who call themselves as concerned Ghanaian doctors, cited how the UK and Israel are still battling with the virus despite a high vaccination rate of their respective population. These countries have very high vaccination rates, currently deploying booster programs, yet they are struggling to get the virus under control, especially with these new variants, the doctors observed in the jointly signed petition. Now, assuming as a country we are to vaccinate more than 50% of our population, are we going to continue with the perpetual booster every 3 to 6 months in an attempt to maintain vaccine-induced immunity for this disease? Where then is the end point when these vaccines do not stop infection of the spread of COVID-19? Is this financially feasible for us as a nation? They contended that the case fatality rate is not as high as anticipated, especially given the fact that not many citizens for them the vaccines become a mandate. It's only a ploy by some pharmaceutical companies to rake in profits. If there is safe, effective, affordable, freely available early treatment for COVID-19, vaccines are no longer a priority. It doesn't take a genius to recognize the financial benefit of pharmaceutical companies in demolishing potentially early effective treatments. If these medications do work, that's wonderful in the human race fight against COVID-19. However, there are practically placebos if they don't work. Why the suppression and demolishing of these early treatments then, if the concern is held? Now, considering all this, wouldn't it be prudent to pause and ask ourselves whether these novel vaccines are necessary in the first place? They quiz. For them, Ghana, and for that matter, Africa, must lead the way in the fight against COVID-19. All the relevant metrics show that Ghana and Africa at large have done better than most of the world with respect to the pandemic, even before the advent of these vaccines. It is possible the rest of the world are rather to learn from us. The doctors are Dr. Timothy Oblija Ama, Dr. Bismarck Opoku Asare, Dr. Faisal Ajay, Dr. William Gani, and Dr. Bernard Boatin Ajay. The others are Dr. Doreen Oye Ajay, Dr. Michael Ajiman Redu, Dr. Richard Faye, and Dr. Sedem Cyril Clay Nogo. The rest are Dr. Phil Dowona and Dr. Emmanuel Awute. Well, looking at the case that they presented, how do you feel, or what do you think about it? It's quite an interesting one, because it looks like the spike, no matter how many people who have lost their lives, I mean, we know people who die from malaria back in that part of the world. They die from malaria. So if people are taking malaria doses and everything, and they are keeping themselves, together, they are okay, they get out of it. What do you think if it happens that now Ghana or Africa, because of our tropics, the weather there, they don't necessarily need to take it? And do you think that would cause them to be, because already the place is hot, so they don't like coming together? But that is not true. They do come together. You go to most churches and places, you have the people just coming together there, and you ask yourself, really, what's up there? But what do you think? What do you think about this? I want to know your take on this. It's quite an interesting one. It's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'm bringing the time now to 5 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to be crossing over to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But let me touch on this last story before we go. President Kufuor on Tuesday, 11th of January, at the police hospital launched a 6.1 million Ghana cedis police emergency medical intervention fund aimed at providing immediate financial assistance for the medical treatment of police officers who get injured in line of duty. According to President Kufuor, I have been assured that beneficiaries do not have to go through the usual bureaucracies and associated delays which have, in the past, resulted in some cases in personnel losing their lives whilst awaiting treatment and the deterioration of medical conditions of some of them. Now, presenting the first three beneficiaries of the fund, Chief Inspector Victor Anako, Inspector Teresa Ohene, and Corporal Isaac Suman Opoku, with amounts covering the cost of medical treatment in Ghana and abroad, the President was hopeful that all police officers who require medical treatment will receive the best of care without recourse to the cost of treatment. On his part, President Kufuor made a modest contribution of 100,000 cedis to the fund, a gesture which was met with the spontaneous applause from the officers, men and women of the police service gathered at the venue. In his remarks prior to the commission of the new outpatient department facility of the police hospital, the President commended the police administration and the management of the police hospital for constructing the new OPD, which will help decongest the existing facility, which hitherto was reasonably responsible for seeing to patients with emergency cases as well as to regular outpatient department patients as well. Okay then, so listeners, this is where I bring the program to a close for today. Tomorrow, God willing, will be coming your way with the one and only Thursday edition of the morning show, where I'm going to be having the one and only Chris Fadeli joining me during the course of the program. I'll be joined by Kojo D and Mr. Frank Davis as well, and you also there. So it'll be a pleasure to see you tomorrow, God willing. But now we will be crossing over to the Houses of Parliament. Should I bring you this song or should I bring you that song? Let me bring you Under Pressure, because the Prime Minister is going to be under pressure. And when that song ends and you don't hear from me, I'll take you straight to the House of Parliament. It's been me, Archie, saying have a top of the day. Bye-bye for now.
pocket, no bed, till we hate. The people, they must suffer. In a ghetto, in a city, everywhere that me go, me see them. Some are cry, some are die, some are weeping.
Welcome to Gabby Dave Global. We are a UK-based online e-commerce store, the first of its kind with license to trade in African products. Some of the products are clothing brands and all beauty accessories, hair and beauty brands, natural aphrodisiacs, processed and dried unprocessed food. Our mission at Gabby Dave is to connect African and Caribbean businesses to customers globally. At Gabby Dave, we ensure our sellers get the best deal for their products. We are not just here to help you reach a wider audience. We are also a distribution center to support business growth by fulfilling orders to your customers from our warehouse, making sure customers receive their products on time. We are inviting all Black-owned businesses to trade on our platform because we strongly believe Africans have a unique brand the customer would appreciate globally. So get into...
I know that millions of people across this country have made extraordinary sacrifices over the last 18 months. I know the anguish that they have been through, unable to mourn their relatives, unable to live their lives as they want, or to do the things they love. And I know the rage they feel with me and with the government I lead when they think that in Downing Street itself, the rules are not being properly followed by the people who make the rules. And though I cannot anticipate the conclusions of the current inquiry, I have learned enough to know that there were things we simply did not get right. And I must take responsibility. Number 10 is a big department with the garden as an extension of the office, which has been in constant use because of the role of fresh air in stopping the virus. And when I went into that garden just after 6 on the 20th of May, 2020, to thank groups of staff before going back into my office 25 minutes later to continue working, I believed implicitly that this was a work event. But, Mr. Speaker, with hindsight, I should have sent everyone back inside. I should have found some other way to thank them. And I should have recognised that even if it could be said technically to fall within the guidance, there would be millions and millions of people who simply would not see it that way, people who suffered terribly, people who were forbidden from meeting loved ones at all, inside or outside. And to them and to this House, I offer my heartfelt apologies. And all I ask is that Sue Gray be allowed to complete her inquiry into that day and several others so that the full facts can be established. And I will, of course, come back to this House and make a statement. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Dr. James David. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Carol Ridgway faces 8 weeks of stress and worry as she waits for an urgent appointment at the local breast clinic in North Wales. Yet, despite the pandemic, 85% of patients in England wait only 2 weeks for their urgent suspected cancer referrals. What can my right honourable friend do to ensure equality of healthcare across Britain?
Prime Minister. I thank my honourable friend for his question. I'm sorry about the case that he raises. Of course, health is a devolved matter, but I thank our NHS colleagues across the whole of the UK, and I point out that the Welsh Government will benefit from an additional £3.8 billion of funding this year, plus a further £270 million to support the response to COVID, Mr. Speaker.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I join with the comments about Jack Dromey? We will, I think, be doing tributes in due course in relation to Jack. Well, there we have it. After months of deceit and deception, the pathetic spectacle of a man who's run out of road, His defence that he didn't realise he was at a party. It is so ridiculous that it's actually offensive to the British public. He's finally been forced to admit what everyone knew, that when the whole country was locked down, he was hosting boozy parties in Downing Street. Yes. Is he now going to do the decent thing and resign?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is...
Hancock went.
I think somebody will be going for an early cup of tea as well. Can I just say, the question's been asked. I want to know the answer. Your constituents want to know the answer. I don't need any extra help either. So please, Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the point that he's making about the event that I attended. I want to repeat that I thought it was a work event, and Mr. Speaker, I regret very much that we did not do things differently that evening, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, and I take responsibility and I apologise, Mr. Speaker. But as for his political point, I don't think that he should preempt the outcome of the inquiry, and he will have a further opportunity, Mr. Speaker, I hope, to question me as soon as possible.
Keir Starmer.
Well, that apology was pretty worthless, wasn't it? Let me tell him why this matters. Yesterday, in this chamber, honourable members told heart-wrenching stories about the sacrifices people across the country were making. This House and the whole country were moved by the honourable member for Strangford as he talked about his mother-in-law dying alone. He was following the rules, whilst the Prime Minister was partying in Downing Street. Is the Prime Minister really so contemptuous of the British public that he thinks he can just ride this out?
Mr. Speaker, I heard the testimony of the honourable member opposite, and I echo his sentiments. It was deeply moving. Nobody who heard that could fail to have been moved. And I know that people up and down the country made huge sacrifices throughout this pandemic, Mr. Speaker, and I understand the anger, the rage that they feel at the thought that that people in Downing Street were not following those rules. I regret the way the event I have described was handled. I bitterly regret it and wish that we could have done things differently. And I have and will continue to apologise for what we did. But, Mr. Speaker, he must wait for the inquiry, which will report as soon as possible.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister's former Health Secretary broke the rules, he resigned. Yes. And the Prime Minister said he was right to do so. When the Prime Minister's spokesperson laughed about the rules being broken, she resigned. And the Prime Minister accepted that resignation. Why does the Prime Minister still think that the rules don't apply to him?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's not what I've said, and I understand the point that he makes. As I've said, Mr. Speaker, I regret the way things happened on the evening in question, and I apologise. But if I may say to him, I do think it would be better if he waited until the full conclusion of the inquiry, until the full facts are brought before this House, Mr. Speaker, and he will then have an opportunity to put his points again.
Keir Starmer.
This just isn't working, Prime Minister. No. Everyone could see what happened. Exactly. It started with reports of boozy parties in Downing Street during lockdown. The Prime Minister pretended that he had been assured there were no parties. Yeah. How that fits with his defence out, I do not know. Exactly. Then the video landed, blowing the Prime Minister's first defence out of the water. So then he pretended he was sickened and furious about the parties. Now it turns out he was at the parties all along. Can't the Prime Minister see why the British public think he's lying through his teeth?
Prime Minister, it was what the public think, not what a member is saying against. Order. And I certainly don't need any help from round here. If somebody wants to help me, they can help somewhere else. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's up to the right honourable gentleman to choose how he conducts himself in this place. He's wrong. He's wrong. I say to him that he is wrong. He is wrong in what he has said. He said what he is wrong what he said is wrong in several key respects. But, Mr. Speaker, that does not detract from the basic point that I want to make today, which is that I accept that we should have done things differently on that evening. As I've said to the House, I believe that the events in question were within the guidance and were within the rules, and that was certainly the assumption on which I operated. But can I say to him, Mr. Speaker, that he should wait. He should wait before he jumps to conclusions, Mr. Speaker. And a lawyer should respect the inquiry. I hope that he will wait until the facts are established and brought to this House.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, so we've got the Prime Minister attending Downing Street parties, a clear breach of the rules. We've got the Prime Minister putting forward a series of ridiculous denials which he knows are untrue. Yes. A clear breach of the ministerial code. That code says ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation. The party's over, Prime Minister. The only question is, will the British public kick him out? Will his party kick him out, or will he do the decent thing and resign?
Mr. Speaker, I just want to repeat that I think that the right honourable gentleman, I know that it is his objective, and he's paid to try to remove me from office, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that, and I accept that. But may I humbly suggest to him that he should wait until the inquiry has concluded. He should study it for himself, and I will certainly respond as appropriate, and I hope that he does. But in the meantime, yes, Mr. Speaker, I certainly wish that things had happened differently on the evening of May the 20th, Mr. Speaker, and I apologise for all the misjudgments that have been made, for which I take, Mr. Speaker, full responsibility.
Keir Starmer.
The Prime Minister's a man without shame. The public want answers to their questions. Hannah Brady's father, Sean, was just 55 when he lost his life to COVID. He was a fit and healthy key worker. I spoke to Hannah last night, Prime Minister. Her father died just days before the drinks trolley was being wheeled through Downing Street. And last year, Hannah met the Prime Minister in the Downing Street garden. She looked at the Prime Minister in the eye and told him of her loss. The Prime Minister told Hannah he'd done everything he could to protect her dad. Looking back, what Hannah told me last night was this. She realises that the Prime Minister had parted in that same garden the very day her dad's death certificate was signed. What Hannah wants to know is this. Does the Prime Minister understand why it makes her feel sick to think about the way that he's behaved?
Mr. Speaker, I sympathise deeply with Hannah, with people who have suffered up and down this country during the pandemic, and I repeat that I wish things had been done differently on that evening, Mr. Speaker, and I repeat my apology for all the misjudgments that may have been made, that were made on my watch in Number 10 and across the government. But I want to reassure the people of this country, including Hannah and her family, that, Mr. Speaker, we have been working to do everything we can to protect her and her family, and it is thanks to the efforts of this government that we have the most tested population in Europe, with 1.25 million tests being conducted every day. We've been working to ensure that this population, our country, has the most antivirals of any country in Europe. And, Mr. Speaker, it's because of the efforts of the government of officials, of staff up and down Whitehall that we've driven the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, one of the fastest in the world. And that is the reason, Mr. Speaker, that we now have one of the most open economies, if not the most open economy in Europe, and one of the fastest growing economy, Mr. Speaker, in the G7. And, Mr. Speaker, whatever the mistakes that have been made on my watch, for which I apologise and which I fully acknowledge, that is the work, Mr. Speaker, that has been going on in number 10 Downing Street.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Education is one of the biggest factors when it comes to levelling up. It's what ensures that people right across the country have access to the same opportunities, and it's a key part of my mission to transform lives in Burnley and Padiham. With that in mind, would the Prime Minister work with me to ensure that Burnley becomes the best place to study, whether you're in primary and secondary school, looking for an apprenticeship in advanced engineering, or undertaking a degree in cybersecurity?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend, and we're investing in education up and down the country, and I'm delighted that Burnley College was part of a successful proposal to become an institute of technology, and that Burnley is home to the growing University of Central Lancashire campus, making it a fantastic place to study in Lancashire.
Leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I add my remarks in terms of Jack Dromey, someone who was a festy fighter for workers' rights and an inspiration to so many of us across this House for the way that he conducted himself. We will miss him, and condolences to Harriet and to the rest of the family. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands before us accused of betraying the nation's trust, of treating the public with contempt, of breaking the laws set by his own government. A former member of Her Majesty's Armed Forces, Paul, wrote to me this morning. His father died without the love and support of his full family around him because they followed the regulations, Prime Minister. Paul said, as an ex-soldier, I know how to follow the rules, but the Prime Minister has never followed any rules. He does what he wants, and he gets away with it every time. The Prime Minister can't get away with it again. Will the Prime Minister finally do the decent thing and resign, or will his Tory MPs be forced to show him the door?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank the right honourable gentleman, but I want to offer my condolences to his constituent who wrote to him, and just to remind him of what I've said earlier. And with the greatest respect to him, I think that he should wait until the inquiry has concluded.
Ian Blackford.
It's an open and shut case. It's an event that should have taken place. It broke the law, Prime Minister. And what's so galling about that response is that the Prime Minister feels no shame for his actions. The public suffered pain and anguish at being kept apart from their families. All the while, the Prime Minister was drinking and laughing behind the walls of his private garden. The public overwhelmingly think that the Prime Minister should resign. Trust has been lost, and the public will not forgive or forget. If the Prime Minister has no sense of shame, then the Tory backbenchers must act to remove him. They know the damage is done. This weak and contentious Prime Minister can no longer limp on. The message from the public is clear. Remove this unfit Prime Minister from office and do it now.
Prime Minister.
Well, I just want to thank the right honourable gentleman for his political advice, which I will take with a pinch of salt since it comes from the Scottish Nationalist Party. But I think that most people looking objectively at what this government has delivered over the last 18 months would agree and I renew my contrition for the mistakes that have been made, but we have delivered the fastest vaccine and the fastest booster rollout in Europe, and the result is that across our whole of our United Kingdom, Mr. Speaker, we have a record number of people back in work.
Simon Fell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, I met with the Chief Executive of my local hospital trust, the University Hospitals of Morecambe Bay, to talk about how they were managing COVID and the impact it was having on them. The impact is stark. They've got about 12 to 15% of their workforce away isolating, and 140 beds, that's about 20% of the total, blocked because they can't get people back out into social care and the community. So with that in mind, will my right honourable friend consider reducing the self-isolation period, if it's seen to be safe to do so, down to 5 days, and also accepting any MACA requests which come through to help get people back out into the community and into social care?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, well, we're certainly looking at reducing the isolation period, and hope to bring you more, Mr. Speaker, about that as fast as possible. We'll certainly look at all MACA requests. But more fundamentally, what we can do to alleviate the pressures in his hospital is to fix the health and social care divide, which is what this government is also doing after a generation of neglect.
Stephen Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today's apology is too little, too late. If the Prime Minister was sincere, he could have apologised at any stage over the past 18 months, rather than waiting until he was found out. My constituents in North Down and people across the UK feel betrayed by the Prime Minister. We've had over 150,000 deaths from COVID over the past couple of years. We have seen standards in public life trashed. So for once, can the Prime Minister do the honourable thing and resign for the sake of the public health message and for standards in our democracy?
Mr. Speaker, I can only repeat what I've said, and I understand the feelings he has about the effect of this pandemic on this country, and I certainly grieve for everybody who has died and who has suffered. But on his political point, can I propose that he waits for the inquiry to report?
Susan Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently visited my local job centre, and I'm absolutely pleased to announce that the adult claimant count is down 28%, and the young adult claimant count is down 40%. Will the Prime Minister join me in thanking all the hard work of the Starr Job Centre for their dedication to actually achieve these results, and also to contribute to the jobs revival that's happening across the West Midlands? 61,000 new jobs since March 2021.
Prime Minister.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker, and I thank her for that. And it's notable that the opposition don't like to dwell on these points, but it is an astonishing fact that we have 420,000 more people in work now than before the pandemic began, and youth unemployment at a record low, Mr. Speaker.
Stephen Bonner.
Mr. Speaker, another week, another scandal for this Prime Minister and his utterly shameless government. For 2 years, my constituents made sacrifice after sacrifice, spending time away from our loved ones, missing out on important life events. Some paid the ultimate sacrifice while he partied away. Figures released just last night show that 79% of people in Scotland think the Prime Minister should step down. Does the Prime Minister now realise that it's clear to all that, while he may not understand how to be socially distant from others, there is no doubt that he is morally distant from the rest of us across these nations, and the best thing he can do now is go. Resign, Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the SNP, and I repeat the point that I've made earlier on. I don't think that he should preempt or anticipate the inquiry.
John Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Colne Valley Regional Park runs through my constituency and the Prime Minister's. Would my right honourable friend join me in paying tribute to the volunteers who tirelessly work to preserve this precious green space? And will he work with me to create better protections for this park moving forward?
Prime Minister.
I certainly will. I join her in thanking the wonderful volunteers, and I will do what I can to assist her in protecting this beautiful green space.
Ruth Kepley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a different topic to that of my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, but a related one. Last week at Prime Minister's Questions, the Prime Minister was asked about his previous claim about that his previous claims about inflation were unfounded, and in his reply he told the House he had said no such thing. But within minutes the inevitable happened, and people were watching videos on social media saying exactly that. So would the Prime Minister like to take this opportunity to correct the record and apologise for misleading the House on this matter?
That would be inadvertently misleading the House, Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, because I immediately said in my answer to the question that, of course, you had to be concerned about inflation at all times. What I said, I think on TV, was that some of the predictions then about inflation had not proved well-founded. But clearly, inflation is a serious risk. It is going up, and what we need is a strategy to tackle it, and that's what we have.
Richard Drax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, Grant Bailey, went back to Afghanistan in September. He disappeared in December around Christmas time. We think the Taliban have him. Can my right honourable friend advise me and his family whether he knows anything about this man, who has him, and what is being done to get him home?
Prime Minister. I thank my honourable friend for raising the case with me, and I hope I will organise a meeting for him with the relevant minister as soon as possible to establish what we can do to help Grant.
Gold Turner.
He's not apologised, Mr. Speaker, for breaking the rules and breaking the law. He's sorry because he's been caught. He is bang to rights. So when my constituents were making unimaginable decisions, he was hosting a boozy party in Downing Street. So how does he think he can still maintain the one rule for him and another for the rest of us? He cannot, and he must resign.
Mr. Speaker, I refer to the answer I gave earlier on.
Peter Bone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This Friday, my private member's bill, BBC licence fee abolition, gets its second reading. It will abolish the BBC licence fee and require the BBC to be funded by subscription. In this day and age, it's ridiculous to have a state broadcaster. It's ridiculous that people are forced to pay a fee just because they have a television. And what is totally wrong, that people who believe the BBC to be institutionally biased have to subsidise them. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister, if he's free on Friday, come along and support the bill?
Mr. Speaker, I have the highest respect for the media judgment of my honourable friend, and though I understand some of his strictures about the BBC, Mr. Speaker, I would also say that it is a great national institution. But I will study what he has to say with interest.
Toby Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've all had Prime Ministers that we disagreed with or we didn't rate, but there's never been one that debased the office in the way that this. He's now forced to lie down in the back of his car to keep away from photographers. We all know the Prime Minister was sacked from 2 previous jobs for lying. So can he explain to the House why he believes that the great office of Prime Minister can be held to a lower standard than those previous jobs that he was sacked from?
Prime Minister.
Well, I welcome the point that the honourable gentleman makes. In the partisan spirit with which I think it was intended, I don't agree with him. But can I suggest to him respectfully that he waits until the inquiry is concluded, which I hope will be as soon as possible.
Alberta Costa.
Mr. Speaker, washing machine manufacturers are considering installing microfiber filter systems in all new washing machines. Will the Prime Minister ask his ministers? Will the Prime Minister ask his ministers to look at...
We've got a slight problem. Some of you want to catch my eye. The longer this question takes, the less other people will get in. Alberta Costa.
People laughing at plastic pollution, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister ask his ministers to look into the viability of my bill, which has cross-party support and seeks to introduce inexpensive microplastic filters on all new washing machines?
Well, I want to thank my honourable friend for this is a campaign, and I believe that we should tackle microplastic pollution, Mr. Speaker. And I'm glad that DEFRA are looking at the introduction of legislation for microfiber filters on washing machines as a cost-beneficial solution. And I will make sure that my right honourable friend, Secretary of State for the Environment, will keep him informed of how we're doing.
Mr. Brenda Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too wish to join colleagues in paying tribute to Jack Dromey. I knew him first in the early 70s and worked with him on the Grunwick strike. He will be greatly missed. Mr. Speaker, thousands of men and women in Afghanistan supported the NATO mission, and they have been abandoned. In 6 months, we don't have a credible route to help people out of Afghanistan safely. The most recent update from the FCDO is directly contradicted by the UN. While the FCDO claims that from spring the UNHCR will make referrals to evacuation schemes, the UNHCR's own website is very clear they make no such reference. Mr. Speaker, is the government creating a Kafkaesque system to intentionally fail those we owe something to, or is this yet another case of the amateurism and hopelessness that prioritized pen farthing pets over human beings?
Mr. Speaker, I believe he does a serious injustice to the efforts of local councils up and down the country to look after people coming from Afghanistan, and I think he does an injustice to the efforts of the UK. We are proud already under Operation Pitting to have evacuated 15,000 people from Afghanistan, Mr. Speaker, and we've allocated $286 million in aid, in assistance for people in Afghanistan, and we are continuing to offer safe passage to this country from Afghanistan.
Paul Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware that Eastleigh was formed as a railway town, from producing locomotives and carriages to building gliders for the D-Day landings. Eastleigh has a proud railway heritage. Given this pedigree, the excellent transport links and the need to level up the south, does he agree with me that Eastleigh would make the perfect home for the new headquarters of Great British Railways?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is a great champion for Eastleigh, and as I told the House earlier, further details of the competition to identify the new Great British Railways headquarters will be announced in the coming weeks.
Navendra Mishra.
Mr. Speaker, in my constituency of Stockport, the average rent for a two-bedroom property is an unaffordable £800. And recently, in the last 13 years, the rents have been significantly increasing. One constituent contacted me recently to explain that she and her husband, who are in their 70s and suffer from ill health, have just been served with a Section 21 notice after living in the property for almost 20 years. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's own manifesto promised a better deal for renters, which included abolishing no-fault evictions. So when will he scrap this practice and reintroduce the much-needed Renters Reform Bill, which seems to have been kicked into the long grass?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, one of the first things I did when I became Prime Minister was to uprate local housing allowance so that people on social rent would be able to afford where they live more easily, is a key component of tackling the cost of living, Mr. Speaker. But what we're also doing is building record numbers of homes, Mr. Speaker, and I was very pleased to see a huge increase in the number of people able to get the homes that they need. But the point that he makes about renters is also very, very important, and that's why we're tackling the rights of renters as well.
Jack Brereton.
you, Mr. Speaker. 56 million through the Levelling Up Fund, 40 million through Transforming Cities. This is just some of the investment we've secured for Stoke-on-Trent. Would my right honourable friend agree, after decades of neglect, this Conservative Party is the only party that is levelling up opportunities in Stoke-on-Trent?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend. He is a fantastic champion for Stoke-on-Trent, and in addition to all the things that we are supporting in Stoke-on-Trent, I'm delighted to say that Stoke-on-Trent will become the home to the Home Office as well.
Dr. Philippa Whitford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think this session shows how much of a distraction the Prime Minister's behaviour has been. I want to ask him that after a recent survey showed 37% of small businesses felt totally unprepared for the introduction of import controls, rules of origin and the upcoming SPS checks. So will he listen to the FSB and introduce financial and technical support to those small businesses, or is he just too busy drinking in his garden?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank her, but what we are doing is offering financial and technical support to businesses, and they are responding magnificently. And as we come out of the pandemic, we are seeing, as I said to the House earlier on, record numbers of people in work and youth unemployment at a record low.
Alicia Cairns.
Speaker, the motto of England's smallest county, Rutland, is multum in parvo, much in little, and never has that been more true than the last 2 weeks. The greatest Roman discovery in 200 years, an ichthyosaur, the greatest fossil discovery in 100 years. So will he please support us to build a new tourism industry and 2 heritage museums in Rutland to preserve these amazing discoveries in our county?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm agog. I'm longing to come and see these extraordinary additions to the cultural heritage of Rutland, and I thank her for drawing it to my attention, and I look forward to making a visit as soon as I can.
Daniel Zeitner.
Mr. Speaker, the government's flagship Green Homes grant scheme collapsed in a £1.5 billion shambles at the end of last year, with just 81 vouchers issued in Cambridge and just 85 in the Prime Minister's constituency. With energy bills about to go through the roof, what is it about this government that makes it so peculiarly unable to run a basic loft-lagging scheme?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are supporting measures to retrofit homes up and down the country, and in addition, in order to improve the insulation, Mr. Speaker. But what we're also doing is supporting people with the costs of their fuel. We will continue to do that through the Warm Homes discount, the winter fuel allowance, and all the other payments that we make.
Prosper.
On Welsh free ports, can the Prime Minister confirm to me and my unsworn constituents that the UK Government is committed to at least 1 free port in Wales, and can he give an update to the House as to how discussions are progressing with the Welsh Government?
Yes. Prime Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend. I can tell her that my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, is indeed talking to his counterparts in the Welsh Government about establishing a free port in Wales, and I urge our friends in the Welsh Government to agree those plans as a matter of urgency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government commissioned NatSen to research the use of health and disability benefits, but has yet to publish the findings. Its own protocol for publication states social research must be released in a way that promotes public trust. The cost of living crisis is hitting disabled people hard at a time when many people were already struggling, and it's surely time to start rebuilding their trust. So will the Prime Minister commit today to publishing this research?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will do everything we can to support people throughout the recovery period from the pandemic. We will support disabled people, and we continue to increase our support for families up and down the country. And she requests that we publish the research. We will do so as soon as we can, Mr. Speaker.
Jenkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank my right honourable friend for his continued support for new nuclear.
Hear, hear.
Following the passing of our landmark nuclear financing bill this week, will he put his weight behind my efforts and those of my Cumbrian colleagues to bring large and small new nuclear to Cumbria?
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and he is quite right that one of the disasters of the Labour administration of the 13 years of Labour was that they allowed a total collapse in our nuclear power, Mr. Speaker. I'm afraid, which is one of the reasons we have a shortage of energy, and that's why we're investing now in small modular reactors as well as the big projects.
Chris Pratt. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the Prime Minister didn't spot that he was at a social event. That's the excuse, isn't it? Come off it. I mean, how stupid does the Prime Minister think the British people are? The worst of it is, he's already managed to completely destroy Allegra Stratton's career. He's tarnished the reputation of Lord Geit. And now he's making fools of every single MP who cheered him earlier. Every single one who goes out on the radio and television to defend this shower of shenanigans. Would it not be absolutely despicable if, in the search for a scapegoat, some junior member of staff ends up losing their job, but he kept his?
I'm grateful as ever, Mr. Speaker, to the right honourable gentleman. I think a former member of the Conservative Party, as I understand it. But I'm grateful to him for his party political advice. I don't agree with him, Mr. Speaker. I've come to this House to make amends, to explain what happened on May the 20th and to apologise. But, Mr. Speaker, I really think that, with all humility, I must ask him to wait for the result of the inquiry, where he will have abundant opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to question me again and to make his party political points again. But until then, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ignore his advice.
Jonathan Gillis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hundreds of respondents took part in the Stoke-on-Trent North Kidsgrove and Talk Bus Back Better survey, of which 80% said they would use the bus more if services were improved. The Conservative-led Stoke-on-Trent City Council has submitted a fantastic Bus Back Better bid for £90 million to improve our infrastructure and our services. So will the Prime Minister make our day in Stoke-on-Trent and announce that money is coming soon?
I thank him for his fantastic championing of Stoke-on-Trent. I also thank him, Mr. Speaker, for volunteering to serve as a teacher again during the pandemic. A wonderful thing to do, Mr. Speaker, and I will certainly look and see what we can do to satisfy his request for more buses in Stoke as fast as possible.
Final question, Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, can I join in the tributes to Jack Dromey, an outstanding trade unionist and member of this House? Mr. Speaker, after another shameful week for his government, this has been a shameful attempt to apologise to this House today. So can the Prime Minister explain why the only person to resign so far for this scandal is Allegra Stratton, a woman, while he, the man who sanctioned and attended at least one party in 10 Downing Street, still sits in his place? Mr. Speaker, advisers advise and ministers decide. So will the Prime Minister, for the good of the country, accept that the party is over and decide to resign?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank him for his question. You know, and I respect the point that he's making, but I must say I disagree, and I would ask him I would ask him to wait and see what the inquiry says, and I'll be very happy to talk to him then.
I'm going to let people leave before we start the urgent question. I'm all right with you. Order. We're now about to start the urgent question. I call on Miriam Cates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Minister to provide an update on the government's vaccination strategy.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to my honourable friend for her question. We have built 3 lines of defence to give us the best chance of living with COVID-19 and avoiding strict measures: vaccination, testing and treatments. Vaccination is the most important of those three, especially in light of the new Omicron variant. Recent data from UK HSA shows that unvaccinated people are between 3 and 8 times more likely to be hospitalised with COVID-19. So every jab counts, keeping people out of hospital and saving lives. Since Omicron began making its way around the world, our strategy has been to massively expand vaccination. We set the highly ambitious target of ensuring everyone eligible for a booster will be offered one by the end of December, and we met that target. 80% of eligible adults in England have now had the booster, including 87% of people over 50. It means that, per capita, we are the most boosted large nation on the planet. In addition, more than 1.4 million young people aged 12 to 15 have already had their first dose since the vaccine was rolled out to this age group in September, with thousands still getting jabbed every day. And as of the 10th of January, eligible children aged 12 to 15 are being offered a second dose in their schools. This vaccination effort is a vital part of ensuring the safe return of pupils to the classroom after Christmas, and the continuity of in-person education, which we know is so important for their development. As we have done throughout our vaccine programme, we listen to the advice of the JCVI, whose clinical expertise is second to none. And as we've done so, our vaccination strategy has been highly successful, allowing us to live with fewer restrictions than at many other places around the world, and keeping our children in educational settings where they belong. Mr. Speaker, once again I want to underline my thanks to everyone who has made our national vaccination programme possible, including the JCVI, the NHS, our Vaccines Task Force, the vaccinators and all volunteers across the country. I'm sure the whole House will join me in thanking them for everything they've achieved.
Miriam Cates.
Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her statement, and the UK's vaccine rollout has indeed been enormously effective. But in September, the JCVI did express concerns about a child vaccination programme because of uncertainty regarding the magnitude of potential harms. Following advice from the CMO, the government pushed ahead with the mass vaccination of healthy children on the basis that while the benefits to children's health were marginal, it may reduce transmission and keep kids in school. Around 50% of 12 to 15s have now been jabbed. So what assessment has been made of the effectiveness of the vaccination programme in keeping children in face-to-face education? Now that the Omicron variant is dominant and more evidence is available, the benefits and risks of vaccinating children may have changed. So what assessment has been made of the risk of hospitalisation of healthy children due to Omicron compared to Delta? Evidence is emerging that vaccination has minimal impact on Omicron transmission, so what reassessment has the government made of the potential future impact of child vaccinations on reducing transmission in schools? And given a recent CDC study showing that the risks of myocarditis in young people following vaccination may be greater than previously thought and compounded by multiple doses, will the government urgently review the potential harms of vaccinating children? This weekend, the NHS put out a press release encouraging more children to get jabbed, including the lines, "Young people can get their life-saving protection and vaccines will protect young people from education," meets the commitment not to put pressure on children. And lastly, given the evidence on transmission, will the government push ahead with the compulsory vaccination of NHS staff? Will it insist on a booster dose for all staff every few months? And if not, where is the evidence that compulsory vaccination of staff will increase patient safety in the long term?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think that my honourable friend is quite right to raise some of her concerns. And I think we need to start from scratch, remembering that it's the MHRA, which is the highly thought of regulator, that has deemed that the vaccine is safe for this age group. And then as a result of that, the JCVI are providing their recommendations, and also our chief medical officers across all 4 nations adding to that. And already the vaccine has been given to millions of 12 to 15-year-olds in a number of countries, including 8 million in the United States. And data from these countries shows that the vaccine has a good safety record. And I'm completely confident that the JCVI would not be making these recommendations if they've got any doubt at all. And that's why all eligible 12 to 15-year-olds are able to book their second jab, is that it's the best way to protect these young people and to make sure that they're kept in education, as we all know that having that face-to-face education is one of the most valuable things that we've all begun to accept. And we're doing whatever we can to keep them in that position. I think we must also recognise that myocarditis does occur as a result of COVID infection as well. And we need to get that balance right to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to protect the majority of young people, to make sure that they are kept in education in a timely manner. I think it's quite right that we continue to follow the scientific evidence, the clinical advice that we have done throughout this pandemic.
We now come to Shadow Minister Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start by thanking the Honourable Member for Penistone and Stocksbridge for securing this urgent question, to you, sir, for granting it, and to the Minister for her statement. Mr. Speaker, our incredible NHS have moved heaven and earth during the vaccine rollout and achieved an extraordinary amount in the face of profound challenges. As the Minister makes clear, it is only through vaccination that we can begin to contemplate building a world beyond COVID. I'd be grateful then if the Minister could explain what assessment she's made of the current vaccine take-up rates, which have dropped to the lowest levels since mid-October, and what plans she has to ramp this up again. Can the Minister also clarify what action the Government will be taking to drive up vaccination rates among 12 to 17-year-olds following media reports of children having to wait until February and travel 50 miles to get an appointment for their first COVID-19 vaccination? Can the Minister also advise what steps she's taking to persuade those who have yet to have the vaccine to do so as soon as possible, and what action her department is taking to tackle the raft of misinformation on the vaccine which continues to circulate on social media and beyond, doing real damage to public health messages? I would also be grateful if she could give an assessment of the impact of the introduction of NHS COVID passes on vaccination rates. Mr. Speaker, over the course of the pandemic, immunocompromised, suppressed and clinically extremely vulnerable people have been badly let down. They are crying out for further clarity, and recent reports highlight the fact that over 300,000 housebound people are yet to receive their booster. Can she take this opportunity to provide the vital clarity that people need and set out the Government's booster vaccination strategy for housebound CV and CEV people? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, can she outline what further steps are being taken to vaccinate the world? As the development of Omicron shows, delay with regards to global vaccination has stark public health consequences here at home, with reports of the UK discarding hundreds of thousands of vaccines over the last few months. Can she reassure the House that assisting with vaccinating the world remains a priority for her department and this government?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honourable gentleman for a measured approach to this, and I think we've seen throughout the pandemic that everybody working together gets us to where we need to be, which is making sure that people are safe. He asked a few questions about the current vaccine programme and the uptake rate. I mean, I'm delighted that just about 80% of people aged over 18 have now been boosted, which I think is a fantastic achievement, and over 90% of everybody of the population aged 12 or over have had their first dose, and 83% have taken the offer of the second dose. I would like to reiterate the offer of the first dose and the second dose is always there. If people haven't yet come forward for their first dose, it's not too late. They can go to a walk-in centre or to make an appointment over the National Booking Service or through their GP to get that all-important vaccine. With regards to 12 to 17-year-olds, the school-age immunisation service has started to roll out again this week, and people can take the out-of-school offer as well by booking through a national booking service and to the walk-in sites. I know you mentioned about a case where somebody had to travel 50 miles. We did look into that situation, and it wasn't quite right, and we've been in touch with that particular member of the public, and that situation has been resolved. With regards to housebound patients, now this is the responsibility of either the primary care network or the CCG, depending on the local scenario. And every housebound patient has been offered their booster vaccine now. But if they feel that it's not that the timing hasn't been quite right, then if any MP in this House has got a case, if they want to take it with their CCG, and if that doesn't get to a solution, then I'd be happy to take that up on their behalf. The Honourable Gentleman talks about the ambition not just to vaccinate the UK, but to make sure that globally people are protected. I'm delighted to announce that as of the end of the year, we donated 30 million doses, partly through COVAX and partly through bilateral agreements, which I think is a great achievement, and we have that commitment in place for 100 million by end of June this year.
Jeremy Hunt, Chair of the Select Committee.
This country has one of the best vaccination programmes in the world, the very best in Europe, and we should remember that the foundations were put in place when, at the height of the first wave, the then Health Secretary bought 400 million doses of vaccine that we didn't even know if it was going to work or not, and that has meant that we are now emerging sooner and more broadly than nearly anywhere else. But that success was also because a lot of GPs in the NHS were diverted away from their normal work into the vaccination programme, and that came with costs in terms of other treatment that they are not able to deliver. So can I ask the Minister, when are we going to see a workforce plan that takes account of the new responsibilities for vaccination the NHS will have? When will the budget for Health Education England be agreed, because 2.5 months before the next financial year we still don't know it? And will the workforce plan have independent forecasts so that we can make sure we are training enough doctors and nurses for the future?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for his question. I know that he's made it ambition to ensure we have the right workforce in place, as does the department. And he raised a really good point about the vaccines and how we continue to administer them, not just the COVID vaccine, but flu vaccines and other vaccines that we have throughout our lifetimes. I think we've learned an awful lot from the rolling out the COVID vaccine programme, and like he does, I want to commend the Vaccines Task Force for having the foresight to look beyond what some other countries did to make sure that we had the vaccines in place when we needed them. So I think we do need to have a look again of how we maximise what has been such goodwill with the vaccinators that have come forward, that some were not trained as vaccinators before. As I travel around some of the vaccine sites, I meet people from all backgrounds who have taken up the challenge to come forward and become vaccinators. And the other day I actually met a builder who's now a vaccinator and who's living every minute of it. But also to thank the volunteers who have come forward to make sure this programme has been so effective. I think it's bringing together what we've learned over this programme of the last year to make sure that we can roll out other programmes in an effective manner.
SNP spokesperson Stephen Bonner.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, Scotland has set an example for the UK, and I want to take this opportunity. To thank all those NHS and frontline key workers involved in the excellent vaccination rollout programme. We lead the way in first and second doses administered, and we